Public intellectuals are active civic engineers. They design and build the practical tools a democracy needs to function. The early United States was built on an idea imported from the European Enlightenment, the concept of natural rights, the belief that people possess inherent freedoms by simply existing. Benjamin Franklin acted as the primary adapter for this philosophy. He took high-minded European theory and translated it for the everyday citizen. To do that, he built physical hardware. Franklin established subscription libraries and leveraged the printing press to distribute information on a massive scale. His work proved a core reality of the American experiment. A working democracy cannot survive without a mechanism that constantly informs its public. Jefferson took this public knowledge and wrote the nation's foundational software, codifying the rebellion into the Declaration of Independence. This radical assertion established a government promising its people life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet the man who wrote those ideals returned home to a plantation built on the forced labor of hundreds of enslaved people. The American system launched with a fatal contradiction. Its highest philosophical ideals were at odds with its systemic economic reality. A system built on a paradox like that will eventually collapse, unless someone from the outside forces it to correct itself. By the mid-19th century, that unresolved tension over slavery threatened to physically tear the United States apart. Frederick Douglass was born into the brutality of that hypocrisy, experiencing the violence of the institution firsthand. He realized early on that escaping physical bondage was only the first step. True freedom required intellectual emancipation. So he broke the strictest law of his oppressors. He taught himself to read and write. Literacy gave him the tools to analyze the moral bankruptcy of his enslavement and articulate that injustice to a national audience. By educating himself, Douglass transformed from property into the system's most dangerous asset, an unauthorized public intellectual capable of dismantling the country's narrative. Douglass made a brilliant strategic choice. He didn't reject the founders' ideals. Instead, he weaponized them against their creators. His core argument was that the Declaration and the Constitution were not inherently racist documents. They were unfulfilled promises that demanded enforcement. To force this argument into the public consciousness, he relied on his oratory and wrote best-selling autobiographies. He also worked as an investigative journalist, founding an abolitionist newspaper to bypass traditional gatekeepers and speak directly to the people. In print, he called for strict constitutional reform, demanding voting rights and universal protection for all citizens. Douglass re-engineered the tools of public discourse created by men like Franklin, using them to hold the nation accountable to its own words. This intellectual framework provided the moral architecture that forced the nation to confront its contradiction through the violence of the Civil War. The resulting Reconstruction Amendments acted as a systemic patch, officially rewriting the American social contract. In his later years as an elder statesman, Douglass stood as living proof that ideas are the agents of systemic change. He demonstrated that a public intellectual's job is to act as a relentless national conscience, demanding the constant expansion of freedom. Today, American democracy is not a static museum piece. It is an ongoing, active argument. The digital revolution, algorithmic echo chambers, and the influence of artificial intelligence now present new threats to that public argument. These invisible technological barriers require a new generation of thinkers to decipher and dismantle them. True citizenship starts with the ballot, but it continues through active, informed participation in the intellectual life of the nation. The American paradox is now ours to inherit. It is up to us to force the system to live up to its highest ideals.